It's time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Into the Liminal Abyss. I am your host, Chatan Noir, and this afternoon I am talking to Mr. Rich Meyer, and I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell you about his background. And
Okay, I am a Bigfoot researcher based in the UP of Michigan. My group that I started on my own is the Upper Peninsula Bigfoot Sasquatch Research Organization. You can find us on Facebook relatively easily. We also do the UP Bigfoot Conference every year. We are in our third year of that. After starting my own group, the BFRO contacted me and asked me if I wanted to be a researcher for them, so you can also find reports that I've got published on bfro.net.
cool. So. Now, how long have you been Bigfooting, shall we say?
Formally researching, I've been doing since 2011. I formed the group in late 2012, early 2013. But the reason it was all formed is because I've actually been researching my entire life without knowing it.
Okay.
My father passed away in 2011, and shortly after that I was watching Finding Bigfoot one night and talking to my mom on the phone. She asked me what I was doing. I told her. She said, well, you know, your dad loved that show, and that's part of the reason you were in the woods so much as a kid. I said, no, I never. She's like, well, don't you ever remember him saying there was something else out there?
So you weren't just playing hide and go seek in the woods with, you know.
We weren't just hunting and fishing all over the mitten and all over the UP. We were hunting and fishing in places where nobody went because he was looking for proof of that something else.
Now, had he ever had an encounter or a sighting, or had he just heard stories and wanted to go prove it for himself?
I think what happened is he probably saw In Search of with Leonard Nimoy, and he saw the Patterson-Gimlin film at a young age, and then
that piqued his interest.
And he liked to hunt and fish anyway, so that's what put him in the woods, and he just kept going deeper and deeper where no one else was.
And he brought you along with him
and then, after I was born, then I became his hunting buddy, and we were out all the time. And like I said, I thought I was just hunting and fishing, but then I started putting two and two together, and the trees that fall on perfectly calm days, the owls that don't finish their hoots, the odd whistles in the middle of the night, the daytime birds that you hear in the middle of the night started to pique my interest.
Now, have you ever had a sighting, or what evidence have you found to further your research?
I've not had what you would call a Class A sighting, where it's a definite, yes, that's Bigfoot standing in front of me. What I have had is I found footprints, I found trackways, I found tree structures and twisted trees. I found trees that were braided together. Up until 3 years ago, if you'd asked me about the phenomenon that they call eye glow, I would have said, nope, doesn't exist, can't happen. Then I was on an expedition in Wisconsin, and we had just cleared a ridge and walked back on the other side. I looked back across and saw two glowing red eyes, and then they blinked out, and then they came back, and then they left. And I thought to myself, okay, it's time to rethink everything I thought I knew.
That would be, yeah, I definitely. So a while back I was talking to you at another conference, and we were discussing dogmen. So how often do you find you're investigating reports of a Bigfoot and it's leading you into the dogman territory?
It's becoming more and more prevalent. When I first started, I thought dogman, no way, it's misidentification. Well, then I started to get more and more reports of dogman. And when you start to ask the questions, okay, what did its ears look like? and you get back, well, they were pointy like a Doberman Pinscher. And what did the face look like? Well, it had a snout like a dog. You start to think, okay, maybe this isn't just misidentification. There's two different things out there. So.
And especially if it has the long tail, then we...
Right.
Now, I remember talking to you, and we were just talking about that earlier. You were telling me that there was a location in the UP where there's lots and lots of sightings, and I was actually driving through the UP a little while ago, and I'm like, oh no, I have to go on that route. And I know that he said that you have sightings on that route, and it's thundering and lightning, and I'm like, I don't want to go down that route because it's like 3 a.m. in the morning, and I'm like drinking caffeine, and I'm like trying to stay awake, and the last thing I need is, a Bigfoot or dogman to walk in front of me. Have you been out to that actual location and researched it or driven past it? Have you seen anything?
I've been out there and I've driven through. I've found some large dog type tracks, but they seem to be running in pairs, so it's a front foot and a hind foot. It's not a bipedal. I've got reports of howls and weird screams coming from the same area. So I've got a guy that's got 15 years of ongoing sightings in that area, and the two of us just haven't been able to make a weekend match to get out there and actually research anymore. But there's the habitat's there. There's not a lot of houses, not a lot of people.
Yeah, no. If you've never driven through the UP, it's a whole lot of trees and road and the occasional house or town. Occasional. So there is lots of habitat, and it's surrounded by lakes on both sides, or the Great Lakes on both sides. So plenty of habitat to support large bipedal. Yeah. And
any of the apex predators can live in the UP, and I mean we're getting sightings of cougars more and more often. But we already know the bears are there.
Oh yeah, so. Yeah. I've seen the black bears, and haven't seen the wolves yet though. So and I haven't seen a moose yet. That's on my bucket list for driving through the UP. So now with your team, how often do you guys go out and investigate, and what areas are you looking to cover? Do you go to private properties, state parks, hiking trails?
We cover all of it.
Okay.
Most of my team are not only just on my team, but also BFRO researchers. And what we do is we've been using the smaller UP group, and we funnel the really good reports into BFRO.
Okay.
That way we get them on the national database. We can share them with everybody instead of just the small core group of people that we have. We like to make sure that we have enough information out for the general public, not just ourselves. As far as how often, there's one or two of us in the woods every weekend, and we do private property. We do private property. We do state parks. We do national forest, as long as there's no money exchanging hands.
Okay. Okay. Now, how often do you have people contacting you saying, "Hey, saw something on the property, not quite sure what we saw, but can you come out and take a look?" And give us your opinion.
It runs in streaks. I would say on an average it's 2 or 3 times a week that somebody will contact me, but there's times where we'll go a month with nothing.
Okay.
Where we're just catching up on things, but then we'll get a week where we get 15 people with sightings.
Okay.
And it's not from the same place. It seems to come from all over at the same time. So.
Cool. Now, are you finding now obviously the right down in this part of the state where we're at right now, across the belt of Michigan, all the fruits in bloom. We've got the blackberries, the mulberries, peaches and pears and apples are coming up on the trees. When do you start seeing migrate, the food? They're following the food patches basically.
About 2 weeks is when everything starts to fruit up there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess is the easiest way to explain it. Right now you walk through and you'll find the raspberry bushes and the blueberry bushes and the huckleberries, and they've got their flowers on them, but no fruit yet.
So do you get more reports when the fruit starts ripening and becoming available?
We do. We get more reports then. a lot of them are misidentification. It's people who get Bigfoot on the brain.
Yeah.
And they're out there and they're picking raspberries and there's a bear just on the other side of the ridge from them.
Right.
And
Because we just had that conversation about black bears walking on their hind
Yep.
legs and.
Yep. And a bear will stick its head around a tree and all of a sudden that becomes Bigfoot. Well,
Right.
then we go out and when we find the bear tracks, we show them, all right, look, it was a bear, here's the tracks. Or if we find a Bigfoot track, we say, okay, that's what you saw.
Have you done a lot of the castings of the Bigfoot tracks?
I've done some castings. Most tracks that I find aren't castable
Okay.
because I tend to find them in cedar swamps, so they're full of water.
Yeah.
Or I'll find something that's really, really shallow.
Okay.
So you get like a gravel road that's got a dusty footprint in it.
Yeah.
So it's not deep enough to cast.
Yeah, we just need more mud in the UP.
Right.
Now, I understand that you also do the BFRO expeditions. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Is it open to regular people? Do you have to be a BFRO member to go on an expedition?
The BFRO expeditions that we do are always open to the public.
Okay.
So what you have to do to be involved in them is go to bfro.net and click on the link for public expeditions. We just did one in Wisconsin near Pembine and Amber. We have another coming up in August in the UP. All I can really say about the one that's coming up in the UP is it's in the central UP. We do have a few spots left open for new people. If you're a returner or an investigator, we've kind of limited that because it is such a good place that we like to share with new people. We don't want to overrun ourselves with investigators, but there's NDA forms and liability forms that need to be filled out through the BFRO, and then it's 4 days of camping with people that are like-minded. And when I first started formally researching, I had sent pictures to the BFRO. They sent back an email and asked for some other pictures with scale items in them and some different things. I said, okay, we really think you have something. We'd like you to come on one of our expeditions. After that expedition went over, they recontacted me. That's when they asked me to be an investigator, because I had shown the other investigators that was there that I knew the woods, I knew what I was looking at for tracks, things like that. I proved myself to them. So it's a good place to find new investigators. I learned more in that weekend with them about Bigfoot than I had learned on my own in 2 or 3 years doing it by myself. So it's a great place to gain more knowledge from people that have been doing it.
Cool. Now, I know that one of your niche presentations is doing proper photographing with things to scale. So can you please tell people how important that is, even if it's just a pop can that you have with you or a $1 bill.
Yeah.
These are sizable things that can be,
Right. Yeah, it's
measured.
Everybody's done it. I just did it myself by accident. When we were in Wisconsin on an expedition, I came across some beautiful wolf tracks that are the size of my hand. Well, everyone listening doesn't know how big my hand is.
Right.
For the listeners, so that you understand, my hand span is about 9 inches. My hand from heel to the tip of my finger is about 7 inches. The wolf tracks were about 6.5 long by 4.5 wide. So it was a big wolf. Well, I took a whole bunch of pictures and then went, there's no scale item in that. No one knows how big they are. Then I retook pictures with my walkie-talkie in it, because you can look at the walkie-talkie, you can pull the model number off it and get sizes from Midland on how big that walkie-talkie is.
And just for a point of reference, a $1 bill is exactly 6 inches.
Yep.
So that is a perfect,
Perfect scale item. Yep.
To use. So if you're in the woods and all you have is a $1 bill on you to compare that size, that's perfect, because it's a universal measurement that you can use and get authentic, documentation.
And if you have 2 of them, you can set them up as a square.
Yes.
So that you get height and width in the same picture.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and if you have a nickel with you, most of us measure our tire treads with nickel. You can measure the depth
Yep.
of the track with a nickel or a quarter.
Right.
Because once again, those are, you can't change the size of a quarter or
Right.
a nickel. U.S. government does not like it if you do that.
Yeah, they don't like it when you
counterfeiting.
Yeah, they don't like it when you mess with the size of a bill.
Yeah, the vending machines do not go for that. So, what else? I know that you're based in the UP.
Yep.
So, what else have you investigated up there besides Bigfoot, dogman? Have you seen the Paulding Light?
I have not seen the Paulding Light
I've
myself.
got one on you then.
I have been to Paulding. I have gone to see the lights. I've never actually seen the Paulding Light myself. I've walked down the big ravine that the Paulding Light comes over top of and had flashes of light all around me. But to actually say I've seen the Paulding Light, no, I have not seen the Paulding Light. But anything that somebody comes up with, a witness that came to me is a medium and empath. She now is part of my team because we started to get phone calls for, I don't know what it is that's underneath my house. Can you come look at it? I don't know what this is, but I don't think it's Bigfoot. So we added Tammy to our group, and she is, after having her own Bigfoot experience and reaching out to us, now she's become an integral part of our team. So we kind of look at everything from all directions now.
So, okay, so my next two questions will be, what has been the weirdest call that you've gotten and gone out and investigated, and what were your findings?
The weirdest thing that I've gotten a call on is I have a lady that contacts me every couple months, and she takes zoomed in blurry pictures through the screens of her house and claims Bigfoot is in her backyard. Now, her backyard is in the middle of the city. There's no good in route or escape route for a Bigfoot to get in there. She draws red circles and blue circles trying to tell me that this is a Bigfoot, and it's pixelated stuff. Mm-hmm. She zooms in with the camera, takes a picture, and then when she sends it to me, she zooms in more. So the pictures get huge.
Yes.
That is probably the weirdest thing, because there's no way for me to help her get any kind of closure on what she's doing. Mm-hmm. The thing that just happened to me is I've never really been run out of the woods because I was afraid. I'm a lifetime hunter, so I've got a great respect for the bears and the cougars and the wolves. 2 weeks ago at our Wisconsin expedition, we pulled into a spot, rolled the windows down on the vehicle, shut everything off so it was black, and as we were sitting and listening, another investigator was on the passenger side of the truck. I was still on the driver's side, belted in. She heard mumbles and gargles off to her right, so outside the window, that I couldn't hear. Then I heard from almost parallel with the truck's front fender, I heard a stick break, like something was walking through the woods. Then I heard another stick break, which would have been approximately 10 o'clock-ish if I was a camera or a clock looking forward at 12. Then I heard a break at 9 o'clock. And then from about 8, I heard I started the truck and drove out of there faster than I ever thought I would. And it's, like I said, I've never been pushed out of the woods. I didn't have a feeling of fear. I think it was more of a feeling of constraint. And it pushed me out of the woods. I went back the following night and sat on that road in the same spot for 4 hours and never had an ill feeling, mm-hmm. Didn't hear anything, nothing. But that is probably one of the experiences I had that is going to stick with me for a while.
So would you say that's your scariest or spookiest?
I would say that's probably the one that had me closest to scared.
Okay.
Spookiest would definitely be those eyes that I saw when I saw the eye glow, because there was no outside light. No one had a headlamp on. The moon was behind clouds. There was no stars out. And to watch two things turn on almost like LEDs, mm-hmm. that are eyes, and then go out and then come back, that was spooky, because you couldn't see anything. It was just, they lit up on the side of the ridge and then they're gone. So
Yeah, that's one of those interesting experiences where you're like, oh,
Yep.
I'm going to sit and watch for a few more minutes to see if it does it again, but I know what I saw.
Yeah. Right, and it was confirmed by other people because there was a group of us, because we were on, it was a BFRO expedition, so we had a group of about like 10 or 12 of us. And just as I was about to go, did anyone else see that? Someone from the other end of the line, did anybody else see those 2 red dots? So it wasn't just me seeing it. I had someone else there to confirm it for me. So
that's always cool when you have like somebody else who can.
Yeah, when you have group confirmation, it's always, it makes you feel like, okay, I'm not 100% crazy. I'm just a little crazy still.
So now, what are your thoughts on? Because I had not heard this term until we were at the West Branch conference. People speaking of Bigfoot being woo, and some people are divided. It's a physical being that is permanently here, and some people seem to think it's an interdimensional being or a space creature of some kind that can come and go, or a paranormal, supernatural that can come and go in and out of this plane of existence. What are your thoughts on that?
When I first started doing this, I was a 100% aper, which is somebody that says it is physical being, flesh and blood, that's it, can't be any other sense. Seeing the eye glow and having that experience in Wisconsin 2 weeks ago, and being circled by something and then going out the following day in the snow and looking for tracks and not finding any, but you can find trees that something brushed against. I'm torn as to what I actually believe now. I know there's something there, but I don't know what it is, so I also don't know what it's not. So as far as the people that say woo and everything else, there may be an explanation for it. I don't like to label anything woo because there's just things that we don't understand yet about them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because nobody's a 100%, expert on Bigfoot or dogman, or because we're getting glimpses into their world. We're getting, brief eye sightings. We're getting, we hear them or find, where they walk through the woods, but we've never, it's not like finding a colony of great apes or anything that you can observe for a long period of time, see what their behaviors are. These are nomadic creatures that are moving all the time, and I'm sure they each have their own territory, but once again, it's like trying to keep track of which moth just flew past you and where it's going next.
Yep. Yeah, and we may get to a point where we can observe them for long periods of time. We may get to a point where they are like the great apes and we prove that they do exist and we can observe, but we're not at that point yet. Even the people that call themselves habituators, they're not habituators, they modify behavior. Mm-hmm. Because once you start feeding something and it continues to come back, well, you took something away from it. You're not habituating, you're not living with it, you're still just living next to it, and it still has free will to do what it wants.
Yeah, it can come and go as it pleases. And
yep.
Now, do you think once, I know that people have talked about using the infrared and using the drones and stuff like that, but the problem seems to be is you can only go so far into the woods and then the trees block everything out. Do you think the more technology we get, we might be able to see these big heat signatures up there? Have you ever used a drone or anything like that?
We use FLIRs on a pretty straightforward basis. Almost every night investigation we do, we'll have some kind of night vision or thermal technology with us. Drones, we've got a couple investigators that are playing with them more and more, that before they actually use them, they want to make sure they can get them back to themselves. But we're working with that. I'm actually thinking about starting to do more and more stuff with old technology. And the reason why is the best evidence we have is a 50-year-old piece of film.
Exactly.
It doesn't have any of the new digital anything. It doesn't have a digital signature. There's no transistors in it that make a high-pitched squeal when they turn on and off. So I'm thinking about getting an old camera and using that and trying to go less high tech. So.
Well, that would be cool. That's going in a completely different direction, but if you get, results with it, then that would be really cool to see.
And part of that is there are people that believe that Bigfoot dogman can see into the infrared spectrum. And they back that up with the eyes are so much bigger, they would have bigger cones and rods, and they may have an extra set of cones and rods. And when you start putting out trail cameras, you usually stop getting activity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or you do like a witness I had have happen, and he sent me 1,100 pictures of horizontal sticks and rocks through his cameras. And he's like, what are they doing? Why am I getting pictures of sticks and rocks going sideways? I said, they're figuring out where they can walk.
Yes.
And he said, what do you mean? I said, they're standing on the edges of your camera, and they're throwing a stick or a rock through it, and then they know where it triggers. Oh, that makes sense. So, but what he had happen is he had put up all new fencing for his cattle, and something came through and took the fence posts and pulled them straight up out of the ground, crumbled the fence together and threw it on the ground, and then walked over to a big one of the big galvanized cattle water bins that had 3 or 4 inches of water in it. Picked it straight up out of the bunking without hurting it, and threw it about 30 feet, and it landed, and the edge crumpled like a pop can. And he's like, I just don't want them up here. I don't care. Right. I don't care if Bigfoot's back on the backside of the field, over by the creek, wherever. I just don't want them up here by the barn and my family.
Right.
So he put up infrared motion lights, and he put up the cameras, and he said, I don't get any more pictures. Every once in a while I get these funny stick things. He says, but nothing's bothering anything by the house or by the barn. So he's happy with that.
Hey, there you go. If you want to deter Bigfoot and keep him away, just put up a surveillance camera or a game trail camera, and they will avoid that area.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they'll come in and they'll push your cameras up, and it depends on what happened before and after that. So.
Yeah, my parents have vacant property, wooded property up near Mansalona, Michigan, and we've heard for years that there was Bigfoot activity up there. So last summer, me and a couple of friends went up there, and I put up a camera trap. We have pictures of me installing the camera trap, because it was turned on. So there's a picture of me installing it, and we padlocked it with a steel chain to the tree. And then right in the view of the camera, we hung 2 open jars of peanut butter, which were attached. I used twine because I figured that won't break easily, but it can, if a squirrel or anything's on the branch, it can hold it. Yep. And then we put a bunch of ripe fruit on the ground underneath, and we went up 1 month later. Well, only one of the peanut butter traps was up there, and so I took the game trail camera back off, pulled the SD card, and when I got home that evening, so put the SD card, into the card reader, and I have a perfect picture of me installing it, something small and black on the branch, which we're guessing is either a turkey or a squirrel. It's too close up to the camera for it to get a good picture of, and then me taking the camera down. So it has absolutely no photograph of what took the other peanut jar. So I'm like, because we tied it up there pretty good, and so something had to chewed through the rope and took off with a full, full jar of Skippy's peanut butter. So, and we didn't find, there was no, because, you're thinking with peanut butter, if something's scooping its fingers in, it's going to get peanut butter all over its fingers, all over the hair. You're thinking maybe it'll leave it on a branch or something like that. Nothing. So, it was kind of disappointing that we only got a picture of a tree squirrel. That's what I'm going to call it. You can find my photographic evidence on Facebook for the Facebook group Michigan Center for Unexplained Events and Phenomena. It's not that glorious of a picture. We think it was either a turkey or a black squirrel. So that was my whole endeavor with the big. Okay, so if somebody wants to join up in the UP, if they want to join your group or get in contact with you, how do they do it?
The easiest way to get a hold of me is facebook.com/UPBSRO.
Okay.
And that will take you to the Upper Peninsula Bigfoot Sasquatch Research Organization. All of my contact information is there. They can also go to facebook.com/UP Bigfoot Conference. That'll give you information about the conference. All of my contact information is there as well.
Okay, cool. Well, once again, I want to thank you for sitting down and talking with me, and it was awesome talking to you again. I'm just glad that everybody wants to see a Bigfoot or a dogman, but not at 3:30 in the morning during a thunderstorm while you're driving through the UP and you're going around these like S curves and stuff like that. You know, so thank you for talking to me, and it's always a pleasure.
And thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.